What's good, everybody? It's King here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome to a new form of possible series or not. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I just want to go ahead and make another form of tier list, but a tier list that is not on power scaling. I could do from a different tier list on power scaling, as I talked about some different forms of stuff like that on stream and things along that. And go ahead and do that if you guys want. But simply put, as you see by the title and on the screen, we're going to be ranking all the Assassin's Creed games and DLCs from worst to best, right? I've already obviously put them, right? I don't want to be doing the whole send them up doing that because it could be longer than what it needs to, and also proc of also unfortunate annoyance when it comes down to recording, as tier lists have advertisement and things like that I don't want to be put in because I don't want to be associated with it, or it might disable the recording and too much overrun of space. And on the sense of my Chromebook that I have here, to case of MacBook setup that I have, it's not in the best case of frame of it. And so when I be doing it like this, where again, from a case of Chromebook or full MacBook case of setup, it's kind of in the mixed case thing to actually represent on screen and then record. And so I either might have to use a back case camera or not have the best audio. I would say that my audio is good here. You guys can hear me thoroughly and concretely. Had like some constructive criticism on, like a fewer words or different forms of speaking, maybe being better. So, I'm hoping that makes sense there with that being said. And again, a whole fleck of different bullshit that can also come with like copyright is also that. But I just want to like formally say that like when I go about doing these, it is all the intention about representing it the best way I can. And you guys see what I have here. I'm going to explain it like usual from bottom to top. And yeah, pretty much it. Again, I hope you guys will enjoy. If you are new, subscribe, like, comment, share, whatever the case may be. Comment, don't matter regardless. Hope you guys will enjoy. Enough talk, let's go and get it in. So, starting off at the bottom, we have not good, being obviously the case of things that are not good for Assassin's Creed and arguably not good games. The two games are Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla. The reason why I have these games here is because, simply put, they are both not Assassin's Creed games. They are not good case of games, and the sense for us is not actually a good, respectful representation of the type of unique stories that they could have, showcasing what the ancient civilization or the case of the ESO were like is interesting, but I don't think it should be for Assassin's Creed game because it's not that interesting, or it's not actually something that anyone requested, or is that much of substance matter. Valhalla is not an Assassin's Creed game. It's more of a Viking game, and that's fine. But it's just not an Assassin's Creed game. That's a big problem with both of them. The grind in both of them is stupendous. I do not like the system. I think Alexios, Cassandra, or Eivor, they are AI-generated characters. They're not very interesting. If I wanted to just go ahead and take the greatest sense of pros and cons look, there's always going to be so much more outweighing cons on Odyssey more than Valhalla. But they both have so much cons in them that I can never actually see bearableism in there. And for people who've been with this channel for a minute, I stopped the Assassin's Creed Valhalla series because I got so uninterested in it, because Eivor, again, is not an interesting character in the plot lines. All that shit, trash, shit, booty. I don't fucking like it. I don't care for it. I think it is objectively a bad game. And none of the DLCs or Odyssey or Valhalla is actually good. So, yeah, I mean, it's not even good stuff. Like, Valhalla is a little have partial sense of, likeness. But Odyssey basically takes no skill in the grand scope for me. And I just don't like it. It's just overdoing it on trying to RPG the fuck out of a series that it doesn't need to be, and I just don't like it. It's not good for AC. If again, I had to go and weigh the pros and cons and try just establishing it as a game, because we're rating these on AC games and also in the credit for being games in general. But I would probably put AC Valhalla in mid, probably put it between this or below India, and Odyssey is going to be put in nasty. I just think Odyssey is objectively bad. And yeah, you're not going to change my mind on that. Like, if anyone would want to debate on these options, I could probably do that if you wanted. Like always, I'm always down to have a conversation, right? But here we go. For the first DLC, we have Assassin's Creed Origins, Curse of the Pharaohs. And I've always, joked with my boy Valid on playing this, but it's nasty. It's not good. Like, the only thing that's good about this is the exploration and the weapons. I think the story is so uninteresting, lackluster, has no sauce. All right, I don't like the fact that possibly Egyptian mythology, like with Greek mythology and Norse mythology, exist. It doesn't make sense. I don't think any of the pharaohs, in the case of their storylines, are that interesting. I think it is more of a bother. I do not like the concept. I do not fuck with a lot of aspects of it. And I all around just have a lot of distaste for it. And it breaks a lot of the immersion to what it originally should be. And yeah, I just don't think it's good. Haven't played such don't care so explanatory a bunch of games that are indie or a little formed I have not played that are on case of things that I have not went on my way to go and peek or play, and or there's something I haven't peeked across, but they don't really add too much more substance matter besides sticking a little bit more out there credit of like peeking into this in this case of thing about the character that wasn't full-fledged shown all around. But for instance, with my nigga right here being Crash from Long, the movie. That's supposed to be like Assassin's Creed lineage. It's not obviously a game. I don't count that. If you wanted me to put it somewhere, I don't fucking know. Probably put it in like cool for what it is, but even in like that's not a good thing. I thought that was like for the case of someone with Syndicate. That's my bad. But I was trying to go ahead and articulate that as another example with my boy Altair, right? Unlike Avon, who's actually a very solid character, sticks a lot of what makes him interesting and such a very nuanced record of develop the character within his first game up here, and then a little patches of his story here. Playing Assassin's Creed 1 Revelations is good enough to get into his character. All that other shit, that don't matter. Anyway, to mid though, we have Assassin's Creed Chronicles India. To me, the weakest game across the Chronicles games. So India only has good things in aesthetic, some atmosphere of gameplay, but the story is so lackluster. It's not very rememberable. I don't really like it. I don't think it has any big gravitas. I think the historical accuracy of it is a mixed toss-up of showing some cool environments, but never tapping into some essence of history or peeking into that stuff or using the case of the area around you besides like with elephants and some plane of like jumping around and moving and obviously, aesthetic and colorful. I think it's the most beautiful game out of all of them, but I don't really like it. Our boss is not a terrible protagonist, but he's not a very intriguing one. The story is not very enticing. I don't care for a lot of greater storyline shit. And like this game obviously takes place 1841, like early 19th century. It's supposed to tie into Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but it has no stellar making or busting tied to it. And I don't really care. And Rabah's story, as I've researched more about Rabah's, a little bit of Shojun, and a great deal about Nicola, they're, to their credit, all-around engaging, cool kid, but Rabah's is the weakest because a lot of his substance matter is so whatever and barely appealing to the overarching drive of really having concern for him. Because he's just a charismatic type of person, but with barely any actual charm to him. Like, if you're a fan of charismatic characters, that's cool. But imagine a guy who can have charisma, but his charisma is so flat and face value with nothing more to it. That's all he is. Like, I don't really have care for him. Like, India, next with Mirage, but Mirage obviously is above for reasons. You don't have to play this game. You cannot play this game and nothing will change. That's how bad it is. Now, when I say this is not to say that it's terrible, but I just do not like it, bro. I'm going to keep it 100%. Now, Mirage, right? I've talked about it before as a toss-up between mid to like I, which is like cool for me. But the game is very like uninteresting. I don't feel like it's as much of a resurgence of what makes Assassin's Creed what it should be again. I think Basim is a kind of whatever protagonist. I think he's a cool part. I think he's the best part of Assassin's Creed Valhalla to me. I think his take on the assassin is interesting, where he doesn't rep, the Assassin's Creed order like he should, and he's perfectly content with that. I think that's interesting. I think it would be always interesting for a guy to be so out of the play of the assassin, but for whatever nuanced reasons, and his reasons is kind of a little bit whatever, but tied with Valhalla and other creditor shit, and then the modern day story, it's just kind of whatever. It's very forgettable. I don't feel like you're losing anything by playing this. The only substance matter that can tie within it is if you care what's going on in the modern day story, and it's shit. So I don't care. It's not a worthy game. I kind of regret buying it, and yeah, I just don't fuck with it at all. So yeah, it's not a good game all around to me. It's only better than India because gameplay and some aspect of the story is a lot more followable, and it takes place in iconic areas and it uses history more because India does not. It does not use the case of the revolution of India or a greater case things of that in the same form, and that's a big critique on me because these are all historical fiction, and that's a big pulling of it, and it doesn't use it good. So yeah. Anyway, it's a cool. At the bottom we have Dead Kings. Now Dead Kings, I was very conflicted in putting in cool or mid. Dead Kings is a very interesting and intriguing case of game, like atmosphere, but that atmosphere is really that all it has mixed with gameplay. Because here, Dead Kings is not the case of like a game, but obviously a DLC to Ace of Unity. We all see where I have that, but Dead Kings is kind of a little bit degrades some atmospheric of Ace of Unity, because I feel like it is not as like intriguing and pull into the world. I feel like the story is kind of lackadaily whatever. I feel like his arc and like reforming as an assassin for the better means of him, and what Elise is, and his father is cool. But we already saw that being half distinctly defined through his speech. I think this DLC is not needed to get a better grasp of Arno. A true sequel is what is needed. And I don't really care for what Arno going about, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel bad for him, but it's really it. Besides the Guillotine gun, the missions you can do, the heist, the money, it's not all around interesting. And I don't really like the overarching stand that it's trying to go for. And I feel like it has barely any substance matter beyond just being okay. It's not terrible. Like, the kid is cool. Like, what it's trying to go for is fine, but I don't think it's the best shown. Then we have Sequence 12 of Assassin's Creed 2, which obviously I believe is probably the GOAT, and I'm not going to explain too much about that. But Forley as its own thing, and everything about Sequence 12, because this is really just Sequence 12. We're talking everything about it, right? Because this is a whole DLC, right? I think it is very good. I think it has a swell case of mission design within Forley. I love all the historical characters. I love Ezio, of course. I love his speech. I love a lot of stuff in it. It's not too groundbreaking, though. It's not in the same ground of busting continuous that all these other shit have, DLC or not. But it's very much good, and that's what at the end of the day matters to me. So, yeah. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia, as I talked about on stream with finishing it, is the last technical chronological game as the close to modern era, as it takes place in 1918, aka 20th century, aka when World War I is about to pop off, and what Russia was going through in that mix of time, a lot of despair and desperation happening. I think it's very cool because Nikolai is a very underrated character. I think he's very interesting. I fuck with what he's going about. I fuck with how he moves. I like the gameplay. I like the atmosphere. It is very fucking annoying sometimes, but I fuck with it. Anastasia, I fuck with and I feel for. I like their duet. I like what they going about. And all around, I can respect that in the end of the day, this story is really a story about a man that wants to do good, even if it has to mean betraying his order and doing things that would destroy a lot of the essence of respect that he could have graced with himself as a whole. Because at the end of the day, man, his character is about a man doing what he does for the better means of his living, and his living keeps getting put in the crossfires of conflicts that he's been fighting for a long time. As Nikolai by this game is like pushing 40, meaning that he's been an assassin for a pretty long time, as he said in his description to be between the late 19th and 20th century, right? And he dies in America in his own, I don't know, Kanaloki, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, tries to rep his legacy in the future, for all I know. I just think it's all around a pretty darn busting, cool, interesting, lovely story. I think it has beautiful depth to it, but it pulls itself back because, one, I think sometimes there is bad design, annoyance, gameplay can kind of feel like mixed bar annoying. I think Anastasia is not as cool to play, and I'm not gonna lie, like, it's just not as like intricate in like design or legacy. Like, it's a good game to play, but I don't really think it's as good to be the final thing. And after playing all this peak just to get to this, even though it's good, it's kind of a disappointing game. Like, Russia could be so much more interesting as a game, but because it's a 2D platformer, it can't do too much. Now, this might be a controversial placement, but I think Assassin's Creed Liberation is generally a very underrated and swell game. I think it is a very good game by gameplay. I think it has some creative stuff. Aveline, even though I think is the weakest in potential protagonist, as she has a lot of wasted potential. I like her voice actress. I think her story just has some sense of actual greater deal depth, substance, and actual, complexity. A woman that has every reason to disperse all that she was raised up upon and join a side that she has forever in her heart stained as the enemy, but stands 10 toes on what she believes because that's who she is. And I think Aveline's voice actress and her as a character is cool. I think the gameplay is dope, and I fuck with it. And all around, I think it's a very underrated game. I think it's one of the most underrated games in the franchise, and I don't think it's actually bad. I think for what it's actually trying to go for, it is actually interesting. And I kind of... Okay, hold up. Sorry, I was singing my throat. I was trying to full say that articulation sense because that kind of sounded weird when I said something in my throat. Pause. No diddy. But I was trying to say that I kind of really rock with the theme of it. And as a brother, in the case of, the historical relevance that it has, it is a very interesting thing. And I like a lot of parts of it. And again, I fuck with, all around what it has. Also, it got Connor in it, right? So, I fuck with that regardless. But let me go get some haircut. Oh, shit. Connor. Nice to see you here. I really like that case of Lion from Evelyn. Now, next we have Jack the Ripper, the DLC of Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, I was kind of conflicted to say if Assassin's Creed Liberation was better than this. I think it's only better because the concept of an assassin being a serial killer is very interesting. It's one of the most cool and interesting concepts. Jack the Ripper as a killer is one of the most interesting and complex people. I think it's the best adaptation of his gruesome murders. I'm very intrigued about this. I like the atmosphere. I like how more dark and serious that it is. I think Jack the Ripper is a very interesting antagonist. The things that hold it back, I also really love the gameplay. The things that hold it back is because the story is not very much laid fully in structure. It kind of tiptoes and kind of gets wobbly to the greatest parts. Jack the Ripper's gameplay is beautiful, but I feel like him as an antagonist is not as groundbreakingly interesting as I hold him up to be, because his reasons is not as substance filled that other versions have given. Even though I think he's the greatest, I think he lacks depth that much more as a villain. He's kind of just evil to be evil. Like, he's a mentally disturbed individual, and we understand that, but why he would take that out on others and not do what he does to feel the fire of the fact that assassins hold this power, hold these skills, do all these things, is not as set in stone. I think that the misuse of Jacob getting foddered and kind of getting sidelined, I don't like that. I don't like a lot of plays with it. And I feel like there could have been more interesting shit in it all around. And that's kind of it. That's just why I feel the way I feel. But I think there could be an argument because AC Liberation does a lot more things tight-knit that it could be better. But that's just me. I think Jack the Ripper's a little bit better. Now, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, Freedom Cry. Freedom fries so much of bussum that it will make your ass be uplifted in spirit. As a brother, and Adewale being such an underrated character, I really think it is a beautiful story. From the soundtrack, the design, I think it is beautiful. I think it should be longer. I think Adewale can have a more grand, nuanced story. But this is a very slapping, stellar, innovative story to where it is a very much cool case of thing, and I really fuck with it. Now, Assassin's Creed 3, Tyranny of King Washington is here because I think it has all around the most like unique case manner story from across this tier, right, of games and DLC together. But when it comes down to what makes it so much stick out is I think it's a very interesting concept. I think all 3 episodes have a lot of more pros and goodness. It pulls itself back because it does not have the most defined, structured story. Let's see, there's a lot of wasted potential. A lot of things are not answered. Let's see, there's a mixed bar that you're very much overpowered with your stuff, even though there's a good sense of, pullback on it. And that the story, because at the end of the day, it's all an illusion. It's all in Connor's head and Washington's head. It doesn't really leave as much groundbreaking shit. And I don't know, man. Like, I think it's cool, but it's not as cool as it could deservingly be. And that's just me, though. Now, Assassin's Creed Chronicles China is here because I feel like it pulls a great deal of weight from the case of the weight that was put on Shoujun's legacy. I think China is greatly shown. I think the atmosphere, the aesthetic, combat, feel, Shoujun as a protagonist is the best. I think it's objectively the best out of the Chronicles games. I think it's a very good game. I think the soundtrack is wonderful. And I don't around fuck with a lot of record of shit. And I think it is the most easygoing credit of story. And I really like what it's going for and how it goes and shit. And I think her ending as a character is one of the most defined case of things. And her being a Grand Master of the Chinese Brotherhood of Assassins is always going to be beautiful to me. Now, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, I was kind of 50-50 if Assassin's Creed Chronicles China should be more higher than it. I think Syndicate, because of its gameplay, Victoria, London is always beautiful. England as a place is beautiful. The writing on the story is kind of sloppy and slow at the beginning, but I think in the middle and coursing down the end, there's a lot of busting in case of concepts. I do like the relationship between Evie and Jacob. I think the soundtrack is profound, and I do like a lot of aspects of it, and I do think it's very cool, and it does play a lot of like weight in the busing category, but it's kind of just mixed bar. I think the only thing that really makes China maybe better is I think like the story is a little bit, I don't know, more credit of like intriguing. I don't know. Like Syndicate, its story is fine, but the story is only so much good because some character way essence and the missions. Like Starrick is not a good antagonist to me. He's boring. Like, when it comes down to what he's actually going for, he's just a mustache twirling, whatever the fuck villain. I did like his sequences singing him, but he's not as much greater gauge of, intrigue. He's very boring. He doesn't have anything swell about him. But I do like what, in the end, is the purpose for why Jacob and Evie do what they do. And yeah, that's really it. That's really all I have to really say about that for the cool tier. Now for bussin'/good, aka B tier, we have Assassin's Creed 1. A solid start to the game franchise, solid case of entry, a repping of a lot of the decree and standard for what Assassin should be. I love the design. I love the way the characters move. I love the way Altier is. And I love how he moves about shit. I really do respect what he does. And most importantly, I think his case of character arc is very interesting to go through. I think a lot of the mission design is good. The only problem is it's a little bit repetitive in some aspects, but I think it does a good deal with it. I think it has a great take and perspective and poke at, a lot of the iconic themes of Assassin's Creed. And it's all around a bussin' cool experience for me. You know what I'm saying? Then we have Assassin's Creed Rogue. Now, Rogue is up here because it takes a lot of the elements of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. It makes them, pop more different. I think the story and the concept of a rogue assassin will always be cool. I think Shay has a lot of understanding things for him, but a lot of things in the story possibly couldn't have happened, especially incompetence on the assassin side and Achilles. But I think Haytham, the Brotherhood, the theme, the feel, the French and Indian War, aka the 7 Years' War, is all around defined and coming together and formation in certain case of things. I do like the Antarctica feel of the game, North America. And yeah, I think it's all around a pretty defined installment. Now, Assassin's Creed Unity is here because of the world. Paris is one of the most defined places to be Arno's character, even though there's some things like in the story that kind of stumbled back from my interest. Like, I don't know. I feel like Connor didn't, need to have actual show up in here, but I wish there was a more connective stand between them and shit. I wish this man Arno would have had more overarching ties to something of greater substance matter than what he did, because even though he was hunting all these people to get redemption/revenge, and his relationship with Elise is cool, I don't actually mind the type of love story that's going for. The antagonist is not as, saucy as it could be. I think a lot of elements of it is not as refreshing as it could be with its design. The glitches in this game are still a thing, but it's still all around coolly played. The co-op, the historical missions, the grounds of new cunning rep of different busts and shit is still there. I think it is swellly done. But Arno, I feel like, was missing a lot of greater touch that he could have. But I do love the ending. I love the speech. I love a lot of things that come in tie with it. And I think it is very beautifully done and crafted. And it's very spectacular to go through. And I love almost dang near every aspect of it, besides the cases, obviously, on cons that I said before. And it's unfortunate the servers are down because I really want to play with my friends. But that's it for that. Now, Bayek of Siwa with his Assassin's Creed Origins DLC, the Hidden Ones, to me, is objectively the best DLC. Okay, I love the story. I love the representation of the assassins. I love the plots. I love the dilemma. I love the drama. I love the exploration. I like the fighting, weapons, capabilities. Bayek and Aya's story, or Amulet's story, is very interesting. I love the historical relevance. I love a lot of the feel, the atmosphere, the soundtrack. And it's a little bit biased because Assassin's Creed Origins is my favorite Assassin's Creed game. That's my personal GOAT. But the unfortunate fact is, even though you can come into this game great as you can be, I do understand that the grind kind of pulls it back. It is kind of short in the grand scope, and it does not play the same feel of like grand nuanced adventure of Egypt, but I think it is a great semi-sequel to what we had, and I think it all around is a great case of busting for what it is, and I fuck with it. It's just that simple. I fuck with it. I don't really have anything more to say. But in the best game out of these Assassin's Creed Revelations, now it is not an A tier like how I had it before because after replaying it, a lot of it feels like filler. I do think it has a great message with Ezio. I think the parts with Altair definitely carry it a little bit more up. I think there's a lot of splendid talks. I love Ezio's love interest. I love Ezio still. I think he's very beautiful what he does. I think there's a lot of profound case of shit. I think some cool gameplay. I think the parkour was possibly the most splendid it can be in greater nuance, and I think a lot of aspects of this game is pretty good, but the antagonist is bare bones as fuck. He's barely of actual substance elements at all. I like Suleiman, but that's really it. And I do like Byzantine take within the world. I love being in the Middle East, but it doesn't really prick the same intrigue as greater form heights of different open world two case of cities have been. I think all around is like, it's a cool from an atmospheric and aesthetic place, but it's not really good from a actual gameplay perspective. Now, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood within the case of A tier, aka excellent / add to the shelf. 4 packs of bussin' is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, obviously at the bottom. I put it at the bottom because even though I do like the Cesare storyline, I do like the case of the Borgia family. I like a lot of aspects of Ezio. It's not to the same grounds of over impact case of busting on the same stand. I think like how it starts and how it goes is very interesting, but some points with growing in Rome and rebuilding the Brotherhood from the ground up in a new place to target the Borgia at their home of operations is cool, but it's not the best done. I think a lot of the characters are not as interesting. I think there's a cool case of like arc and mixed ball like representation of some things, but I really feel like Ezio should have shown more like substance and stand and things, like with his sister and her becoming an assassin, with these other people, his hypothetical love interest thing with one shawty, and also case of like his character. I understand there's reasons for that because obviously she's a historical figure and that's not really his wifey. But I just feel like Ezio could always do more, but it wasn't the best done. But I do like the ending. I like what it's trying to do. The ending with this killing, the voice actress, I forgot her name, because Ubisoft would not pay her the right amount of money because she had a whole case of, 3-game contract. I just think that's, bogus. So that kind of pulls back the ending for me. And it's just not, consistently having the greatest boat of this and this. It's still a wonderful and profound game. But to me personally, it's not the most grandiose, intriguing. And I'm not going to lie, like the DLC or side mission shit with my man Leonardo, it's interesting to get to, but I don't feel like you're have that much inclined to really peek into it too much. So it kind of just is good, but it's not that more peaker good. It's about the greatest bar that you could try to get for a great sequel, but it won't top, the first. You know what I'm saying? But Assassin's Creed Origins, I will stand 10 toes in saying I proudly believe that it is better. I believe that Bayek's story is so compelling, so heartfelt, so saddening. I think the relationship between him and Aya is beautiful, even if it's kind of wild at times. I think the tracking of all these people and the different interactions that this man Bayek has is very interesting. I think the game is pretty defined from start to finish. And I think the ending, I think what it is trying to go for is one of the most profound games. And I think it is without a doubt the best RPG. Egypt is wonderful. It is spectacular. This is one of the most profound held places in the Rhino confident Africa. And the only problem I really had with it is the grime. The level design, it's a little bit booming wild. And a few nitpicks that maybe you could speak of from a historical perspective. But I think it is very roundaboutly done, definedly, and beautiful. And I fuck with it a lot. And yeah, that's me. But then we have Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 has a lot of controversy, right? But I think because of Haytham, Connor Kenway's very underrated, underappreciated, misunderstood story. The fact that we have the most defined, coming together, crafted, modern day missions is good. I like what Desmond does. I like Desmond as a protagonist. I like a lot of the key aspects of it. The homestead missions, the, case of multiple specs of grade A life tied to it. The American Revolution key parts. I think the naval combat, even though not being as top tier as, its sequel, still stands pretty good and aight for the time. I think all around is a rolling form of bussing to tie with it. The only problems come with the case of, fortunately Connor's speech at the end that gives more flavor to his character. I think, the ending for Assassin's Creed 3 is without a doubt a big detriment to why people don't think it's good. But I think everything tied within it, taking everything that makes the base game what it is, and the pure fact that Assassin's Creed 3 with Connor Kenway and every aspect of it is so interesting, so intricate, and so much spices in it, makes it the best. Then we have Edward Kenway's story with an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, the second greatest Assassin's Creed game to me, where it is a very interesting story. The combat is beautiful. I love the history. I love all the characters. It has the arguable best to, I'm standing 10 toes. It has, next to Assassin's Creed Origins, to me, the best Assassin's Creed ending. I think Edward James Kenway is one of the most profound video game characters to me. I think he's very beautiful. I think he's very defined. I think he has a lot of spectacular, defined stances of shit and is a very stellarly crafted together character. But the greatest game of all time for Assassin's Creed and is in the top 10 greatest video games of all motherfucking time is obviously peak Assassin's Creed 2. Nothing but 3 statements. Profound, glorious, and most importantly, extravagant. Riquez Caribache. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, Marmy. Love y'all.